Okay, so I'm now up to row 20, about to start row 20 of chart 3, the chicks. And up until now, I haven't shown you the first part of the cowl. I haven't done a video for that because it's just using the same basic stitches that I showed you in the gauge spots. You've been all the way right up to this point. We've just been using the basic overlay mosaic crochet stitches. But for the beaks on the chicks, I just wanted them to stand out just a little bit more than if I'd used the standard back loop double crochet for the beaks. So I'm just going to be we're going to actually be working through both loops of them. So I'm just going to take you through that. What you'll see is basically I've put on the chart, I've used the same little sort of, I don't know what that symbol's called, the little sort of pointy hat thing that I use for the edge stitches. I've used that in the middle of the row there, and the same with the E. It's usually a capital E, which I call for edge stitch in the main pattern. That is also you'll find in the middle of the line. So the reason for that is because those stitches are worked through both loops, where mostly your double crochets are through the back loop. Okay, so I'm going to start the row as usual with a slip knot on my hook, and we'll start, obviously, as I said, double crochet through both loops, chain. I've just got one back loop double crochet before the repeat, then 7 more of those, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Then we've got a run of 11 front loop trebles, and then we'll get up to those beaks. 9, 10, 11. So now we're up to the first chick's little beak. So as I said, rather than working as we normally do into the back loop there for our next double crochet, what I'm going to do is just work under both loops. Okay, so what that will do is just show a little bit more of the colour of the chicks than if we'd have just worked into the back loop. If I do a back loop on next, so you'll see what I mean. Okay, hopefully you'll see that that just brings that down a bit further. So we actually have got a back loop double crochet there now, because we've got a run of 9 of them. So that is 2, 3, 4, 7, 8, 9, and then we've got 1. So they're all back loops, a run of 9 in the back loops, and then 1 more under both loops, and then we've got a run of 11 trebles for the next little chick. Okay, so when you see that E in the written instructions in the middle of the row, capital E, or the little, again, don't know what it's called, the little character, which is like a little pointy hat in the chart, and that's just through both loops. Okay, so you can carry on now and complete that, and row 22 is be the same. There'll actually be 2 that we're working under the double loops, and then I'm going to come back and I'm also going to just show you row 23, because we've got another new stitch on there, which is a little puff, just to make the chick's eyes stand out a little bit more. Okay, so I've now done obviously row 20 there, just done row 22 there, where you can hopefully just see the 2 stitches for the beak have been done under both loops, and I just got started on row 23 as well. So I've got little trebles before we get to the chick, and then 9 back loop double crochets there, and I'm now up to where we're going to be positioning his eye. Now if you wanted, you could just do another back loop double crochet in there, but then the eye would look kind of like where I've done the feathers, which is more of a texture, doesn't stand out quite so much. But so what I'm going to do, we're going to do just a little sort of a mini puff. So it's not, normally a puff would be basically half treble 5 together. Well, I'm just going to do half treble 3 together, and that's just going to fill that out and make his eye stand out a little bit more. So all we're going to do is still working into the back loop. So yarn over into the back loop, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull up another loop, yarn over, pull up another. So we've now got 7 loops on our hook. 2, 4, 6, 7. Okay, so yarn over that and then just pull it through all of those. Okay, now we're not going to, I know sometimes when people do puffs they will now do a chain there to lock that in. I'm not going to do that because then it's kind of adding an extra stitch and that'll get confusing. That'll get locked in when we now do our next back loop double crochet. Okay, so I've done the puff. We're now going to go straight into this next stitch and do a back loop double crochet there, and that's held it. Now that kind of disappears to the back a bit at the moment, but don't worry, because when we come and do row 24 we are going to do something to that stitch just to help bring that forward a little. Okay, so we've then got, that was actually a run of 3 back loop double crochets there after the eye. Then we've got 7 front loop trebles here between the 2 little birdies, little chicks. 5, 6, 7. So there we go. That's now brought us up to that next beak where we can't do a front loop because we actually worked our beak through both loops. Okay, so then we've got 3 back loop double crochets, 2, 3, and then a puff again. So we'll just run through that puff together again once more. So yarn over, insert into the back loop still, pull up, 2, 3, and yarn over and pull through all of those. And then when we now do our little run of back loop double crochets, that will just seal that in. Okay, so carry on, do that, come back and we'll run through on the next row what we do to just help that little puff come forward a bit. Okay, so I'm now on row 24 and I've just got up to that puff that we just did on the previous row. So what we're going to do there, rather than working just into the back loop as usual, just to help that come forward a little bit more and make it just a little bit more pronounced, what we're going to do is work around the post. So do a little front post, I call it front post stitch, so a front post double crochet or single crochet, obviously if you're doing the US terms. Okay, and then it's really important to make sure the next stitch, this front loop one, goes directly into the next loop there. It can get a little bit crowded because we've got the extra sort of puffy little stitch there. So then we've got our front loop treble in there. Okay, so there's his little eye. So we're now going to do our 11 back loop double crochets to take us up to his little friend, and then I'll just run through that again with you. 5, 9, 10, 11. Then we've got the 1 front loop treble in there, and then remember we're doing a front post stitch there, so front post double crochet. Oh, so just insert next to that post there, around the back and come back out again like so. Okay, double crochet, and then making sure that you start in the correct loop, so I'll be quite close to that puff when you now do your trebles. So there we go, that is now all your special stitches that you're going to need for the little chicks. And then, so the only other thing that I need to show you really is going to be for the next part when we're doing the Easter eggs. I've actually used 3 colours there, so it may look, when you're looking at the pattern, it look like we are doing some kind of tapestry crochet, but we're not. We're still only going to be using 1 colour at a time, but we're going to be cycling through 3 colours instead of 2. So I'm just going to run you through the basics of how to do that on the next part.